What's up, gun gamers? Garrett here to tell you about my favorite rifle, the WE MSK gas blowback. So I had originally purchased this rifle in September 2013. It was one of the first ones off the shelf when they originally came out. I've been using it almost every single game that I could get the chance to ever since I had purchased it. So this is 3 years of use on this gun. And I want to tell you my thoughts, and I want to tell you the good points and the bad points about this gun. Now, you would imagine for a gun that I love, I wouldn't have bad points. Not the case. There's still some issues with this, but they're minor compared to the positives for it. WE MSK is based on the Bushmaster ACR / Remington ACR. It's kind of a hybrid between the two because it has some features of both. The obvious feature that's similar is this handguard. This handguard is from the ACR 2.0, which is what Remington has originally called it, the one for the military. It uses the same gas plug. You can see it has the U for unsuppressed, and on the bottom side it has S for suppressed. Even though it doesn't do anything for airsoft, it's still cool. But as far as other features that make it similar to other ACRs, it has a polymer lower receiver, which was common for the original ACR or Masadas. Has the polymer buttstock, has the extruded, or at least an extruded-like upper receiver that's all aluminum, and of course you have this aluminum handguard, and it has the quick change barrel, especially so on the gas blowback. Again, gas blowback, so the bolt actually slides inside the upper receiver with help of gas contained inside the magazine. But I'm going to go feature by feature on why I really dig this gun and what kinds of issues I've had with it. So starting at the front, this was the first time we had seen this Advanced Armament Corp breakout style flash hider. It has the 18 teeth ratchet system, which was an older style. I don't know what suppressors this fits on because I don't typically use suppressors for airsoft because they don't really do anything, and I'd rather change out the actual barrel than have a longer than just throw on a mock suppressor and run the inner barrel through. To me, I don't like to do that. You can see that the barrel that I have on this gun is shorter. This is the aftermarket 11.5-inch barrel. I can't remember what millimeter size it is, but I like the shorter length on it. It's a lot more manageable, especially with the larger. This handguard's kind of heavy, so I like having the shorter overall length to it. But it does originally come with this 16-inch barrel. I did measure it. It is 16 inches. An M4 length barrel does not fit the whole length through it. Of course, I've also added this PTS AAC MITR, or MITR, however you want to pronounce it, flash hider to it. So it looks shorter, but it's 16 inches. The threads actually come out to here inside the flash hider. But you can buy these separate barrel kits separately. They actually have the 11.5-inch, which I have on this gun. They have the 16-inch, which originally comes with the gun. I think you can buy that separately. They also have a 20-inch, which is really long. Now, unfortunately, they don't change the gas piston at all when they go to the longer or the shorter barrel. So when you go with the longer barrel, it looks like they just tacked on all this length to the end of it, and it doesn't look quite right to me. It doesn't look quite right to me, so that's why I didn't purchase it. I did purchase the 11.5-inch barrel because it's much more maneuverable, much easier to use, much easier to store. And because it's airsoft, you can make an 11.5-inch gun shoot just as good as a 16-inch gun. But from time to time, I will swap between these two barrel lengths because sometimes I run the gun as a recce with a magnified optic instead of this red dot I have on here. So the 16-inch barrel does help with the range and consistency further out. But although I do prefer to have this set up the way it is. Now, next up, the rail is the ACR 2.0 style. In fact, I've seen up until Evike was able to get these OEM'd from WE, you could find these aftermarket for sale for $300, which is almost the same cost as the gun. So now that that has calmed down significantly since Evike had been able to get the original rails from the factory for $100, you can do that. It comes with two short rails These are a 4-slot Picatinny rail, and then this really long one, which is a 9-slot. Now this was designed in the era before M-LOK and key mod, when people wanted to thin up rails by not having all the Picatinny rails machined into them. Instead, they were looking at these direct thread attachments. Now, the nice thing about this handguard is it has the capability to fit these on the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, the 6 o'clock at the bottom, and the 245s on the lower half. So if you wanted to fit a light, which I will put on this rail sometimes, you can do that. And I put the long slot on here because I will run a vertical foregrip like this Tango Down version right here, and a short little rail piece. I'll run that sometimes. But the primary reason why I have this long rail on here, the primary reason I have the long rail on here is to fit this M320 grenade launcher. Those that know me know I really love using a grenade launcher on for airsoft, and the M320 is one of my favorites, and it's fitting since the Army uses it, and the Remington ACR handguard is designed in real life to handle 40mm recoil. So this is not uncommon, an uncommon setup if the ACR was ever adopted as America's rifle, which unfortunately at the time it is not. So my only other gripe with the handguard is, if you can see right there, there's some play. Now that has kind of developed over time. Originally it wasn't too bad. It had a little bit of wiggle in it. I know of ways to fix it. You could throw an O-ring, like a small O-ring that fits onto the screw over that, and that takes up all the play, or you could throw some Teflon tape or something like that. To me, the wiggling doesn't necessarily bother me because the barrel is free-floated inside the upper receiver. So it's not that much of a concern whenever I run this handguard if there's a little bit of play into it. Speaking of handguards, WE offered an aftermarket polymer handguard similar to what the original Masada ACRs came with, and this is available for $35. You know, if you are ponying up the money to order one of these, the full-size rifle, definitely think about picking one of these up for the extra couple dollars. It comes with the pin and everything that you would need to mount it. It's all polymer. It's really, really stiff and rigid. Good construction to it. I will sometimes swap this in place. You can see I have a bipod on it. I use this handguard for when I use it as a recce rifle. But I will sometimes use this if I really want to cut the weight down and I'm not going to use the grenade launcher at all for the weekend. I'll throw this on the front. So couple that with the short barrel, makes it a really light gun. The handguard, unfortunately, is not like the real one. When you push the pin and slide it off, the pin is not held captive in the handguard. You can see this is the pin right here. Has this little piece right there. You can kind of see, I see my thumb's dirty. You can see that little tab right there. That's what keeps the handguard in place on there. It fits tight right here, it just doesn't hold itself well to the front, which that may be a plus or minus for some people. Personally, I don't mind it. Like the real gun, it has the quick change barrel system. I'm not going to take this out because I got this really tight. But I found that you had to use the barrel shims that come with the gun. It comes with 2 or 3 of these little U-shaped, or they almost look like a really close C, flat washers that fit underneath this barrel nut right at the base where the barrel is. They fit right onto this shoulder right here underneath the barrel nut. That's where they're supposed to go. And those fit great. They're designed for it. But if I had a couple of other barrel shims that I had to use to get this tight, because I kept cranking this on and off, switching between the recce and the short barrel setups that I had. Over time, you can see that I have to torque the wrench kind of tighter to keep it nice and rigid in place. So I'm going to try and not swap barrels as frequently in order to prevent that play from eventually building up again. But you can still swap the barrel on it and it's still relatively easy. I'm going to use a 16-inch barrel to demonstrate this, but the WE uses standard M4 style hop-up units, barrels and buckings. So any of the original VSR-10 barrels and bucking combinations you used for other WE rifles, RA Tech, Angel Custom, Modify, PDI, anything that's designed for a WE open bolt gun is going to fit in here. And because it uses a standard M4 hop-up, if you need a replacement, it's really easy to get. And it's really easy to, you can adjust it relatively easily too, because it has this screw at the top like most WE M4s, but you can take the barrel out of the gun, move your hop-up adjust, reattach it to the gun, and try zeroing your hop-up that way. It's much easier to use than the M4 or any of the other guns where you have to reach in with the special tool in order to adjust it, or get the tiny little wrench that comes with it, like a 1/10 of a turn, in order to make fine adjustments. You no longer have to worry about that. So while I have the handguard still off, the next thing I want to talk about is the actual blowback mechanism. Now, I know most people know original WEs had problems with the bolts breaking and the trigger pieces breaking. That is not the case with the MSK, or at least that I've had it. This is the original parts are still in this gun. The original bolts still moving fine. The original trigger is just fine. WE put steel where they needed to be able to put it. So I have a second carrier right here, and if you look at the top, at the front of it right there, you can see that there's these extra pieces press fit into there. Those are steel, actually. You can test them with a magnet, and they're steel, and they don't have a ton of wear on them compared to the rest of the carrier. Now, this carrier is pot metal. It's, you know, I'm not going to deny it. But the original beta project conversion kits were all 100% pot metal. These corners would round off, and then you'd have bolt locking problems in relatively few rounds. Not the case with this, and I've probably put at least 5,000 rounds through this gun. And you can see, now granted this is a different carrier, but there's very minimal wear where that steel on steel contact is, because the bolt catch, which is down here, right where the traditional ACR one is, that's steel internally, and you're mating steel against steel. So it's pot metal everywhere else where it doesn't necessarily matter, but it's steel where it counts. WE M4 bolts and bolt carriers have, or at least bolt catches and bolt carriers, have the same reinforcement piece. So this isn't new for WE at all to be able to do. I really appreciate it because it helps with the wear and tear. Moving on to more internals of the gun, you can take out this pin. Unfortunately, this pin is not captive either, like the handguard. You can crack the receiver in half, just like an AR or an FAL. Here we can take a good look inside the trigger group. You can see this is our bolt catch right here. This is a steel piece. Our auto sear is very similar to the SCAR, however is not compatible with it. The hammer is its own original design. You can see it looks more like a traditional AR-15 hammer. It is not compatible with the AR-15 or the M4 series by WE. It has a longer trigger set, it has a longer disconnector, it has this different style hammer. It's unfortunately not going to work. Now you can see I have this wear point at the top here. That's the only spot that I've really ever noticed any type of wear on. You can see on this other carrier that the bottom of it is polished. Some folks have had cycling problems, not me personally. I don't think you necessarily need to do it. But just in case you do have some cycling problems where it's so slow cycling, you can polish the top of this hammer and the underside of the bolt carrier, and that's going to help reduce that friction, just in case you need it. But again, I haven't had to do it. One gripe that I do personally have is the safety. Now, when I rotate it, you can see it's not perfectly straight up. On the real ACR, it would be perfectly straight up. Now, full auto is at this 60-degree position. I think WE made this to be more consistent in the safe position, since you're not near vertical, where that's where it would normally be, and people don't accidentally kick it into auto. There's a very distinctive click there. The other thing I dislike too is, as it comes from the factory, the safety almost doesn't work. And I've heard a few people that also own these rifles, again, not me personally, but just going off of what I've heard from others, that they can pull the trigger. You can see that there's play in this trigger setup, and the hammer almost wants to drop. That's because there's a little bit of tolerancing that's big, where the safety prevents the hammer from coming. If I pull it, you can see just a little bit more room causes that to almost want to drop. So that's the only thing I don't like about this, is it's dangerously close to tripping. Now I don't make a habit of playing with this trigger in safe, because that's just going to slowly wear down, and then eventually that will start tripping like that. You can see we have this buffer piece sticking out of the back of the stock. That makes it incompatible with the original PTS Masada handguard or buttstocks, unless you add this piece in and adjust this pinhole. I've tried it. It seems to be more work than it really is, because truthfully I love the ACR stock. The 7-position stock is really nice, folds to the side. The cheek piece is almost kind of worthless. It only moves up like 1/4 of an inch, so as far as adjusting your height for different height scopes or something like that, you're almost better off not doing it. And honestly, under recoil, this thing is so loose now, I don't even bother with it at this point. But it has a 7-position stock. It has a QD, these QD cups on both sides of the rifle as it comes from the factory. The stock folds to the side and has, I'm going to take this out, has a storage spot here. Unlike the original PTS Masada, the PTS Masada has a waterproof cover that fits over this. WE does not have that. Doesn't even look like it has provisions for it. Although this little hole at the top here looks like you could stick the tail of that waterproof cap in there. But I've generally found it fine. I put one of these airsoft fats, I think that's what it is, the stiffy knob. This helps you adjust the hop up with the carrier still in the gun, so I don't have to take the barrel out. And this actually fits inside. Only a little bit of it is poking out, but there's extra space in the top right here, so that way when I close the stock, it fits in there just fine, and I can keep it with me on the field. But the next thing I want to talk about is the pistol grip. Unfortunately, on the Remington ACR 2.0, you can replace this with any AR-15 style pistol grip. This is not the case. This is the original polymer integrated pistol grip, but it does have a nice storage compartment. You can see it's a nice tube. You can stack 2 CR123 batteries in here, or I think even you might be able to fit 2 AA's. I think it's a little short for that. I put my end pass adjustment tool inside of here, along with an extra spare hop-up adjustment wrench as well. Just in case the stiffy knob gets lost, I still have something to be able to adjust the hop-up with. And like I said, it just fits right inside the pistol grip like that, and it stays in there. I don't have any problems with it at all. So the bolt locks back on an empty magazine, and it comes with one of these PMag style magazines. You can see I have this one labeled, so I know it is mine. If you buy the tan version of the gun, you get a tan MSK mag, but I like the black mags in my gun because I think it creates an interesting two-tone look. The MSK uses any of the Stanag style magazines that are common with the WE M4 series. Obviously it's compatible with the PMags that it comes with, but it also works with the Stanag 30s and the Stanag 20 short rounders. It works great with all those. I haven't had any issues with any of them locking back or anything like that. WE did a really good job making this gun work with different mags. As far as performance-wise, this gun shoots a little over 400 FPS with a .2 out of the box. So I had to, in fact, at some points in time when I left the carrier stock, I was chronoing in at 450 with green gas. It's really, really fast. So I had to put the RA-Tech negative pressure adjustment system or adjustable system into it. I would highly recommend the RA-Tech version over the Angel Custom one. because the RA-Tech is designed to work inside these open bolt nozzles for the WE rifles. The Angel Custom one you could probably use for pistols, but they made the wrench incorrectly. They put the wrench part on the short side of the little L piece instead of the long side like you'd be able to reach it. RA-Tech doesn't have that problem, so I definitely recommend spending the money, the $20 for an RA-Tech end pass for this gun. As far as any other upgrades I have in here, I do have a RA-Tech Type bore barrel and a modified tan bucking in here. However, I've had an Angel Custom Type bore and an Angel Custom blue bucking in here with great results. I'm trying out the modified tan bucking to see if I like it. If not, I'm going to try one of those UAC buckings that Eric and Andre talked about on Speed Sim. As far as any other issues I've had with the gun, I've only broken one nozzle in the 3 years that I've had it, and that was only a couple months ago. I did have a couple of short stroke problems, but working in the action seemed to help that because you're polishing that ridge on the hammer that allows it to cycle properly. Overall, this is my go-to rifle. I can adapt it to playing a DMR or a standard assaulter or as a grenadier. I can swap the optics relatively easily. It has all the features of a gun that, as a one-man person, I don't rely on other people to do my tech work or anything like that. This gun is really easy to take apart and make any adjustments or fix anything that may need addressing. I haven't had to touch the trigger group at all, and other than the nozzle breaking, the carrier has been just fine. The recoil spring is just fine. I wish WE would produce other stocks that are factory direct replacements. PTS has the fixed style stock. It doesn't have any adjustment in it. It's like position 4 as far as length of it. And then they also have the precision rifle stock for this. And I'd really love to be able to use those on the MSK without having to modify them. I know it's been 3 years since the original release of the MSK, so it's kind of doubtful that WE would get around to it, but I would really like it. And I'm sure there's other MSK owners out there that would also like it. Other than that, those are the reasons why this gun is my favorite gun. I can readily adapt it to whatever role I need it to do. It's really easy to work on, and this gun has given me minimal problems. I've left it stock for a really long time, and I see no chance after 3 years of using it, no chance of being able, or not having to replace the carrier or the trigger group at all. I played around with different barrels, like I said, and I've had different results. Overall, the only disagreements that I have with it, the handguard is loose, this trigger issue that is common on almost every MSK that I've seen, and we don't have different stocks to be able to swap out on the gun. Those are my only issues with the gun. Other than that, I really love it. I've had to do minimal work to it to keep it running for 3 years, and I will continue to run it in the foreseeable future. If you have any comments on this video, be sure to post them below. If it's your first time here at Gun Gamers, make sure you subscribe, give us a like, share the video, what have you. I'm Garrett, and I'll see you guys later.